Hey, it's Mo. How are you today? I thought it was a good day just for a t-shirt and a tag video. I've never done a tag video. I am not typically a big fan of tag videos, to be completely honest, but this one has caught my attention, as it apparently has many people. This is all about my eyeshadow palettes tag that was created by Samantha and Allie Glines, and a lot of people have done this, and I keep watching them. I do find them really interesting. I feel like it's interesting to see, maybe I'm learning a little bit about people through their palette collection, or maybe I'm just a nerd and I like to see all the new and the old palettes or whatever, but I thought I would do this, and maybe it will give you some insight into me or my collection or what have you. So it's just 13 questions all about your eyeshadow palettes, and let's talk. By the way, anybody better off dead? This is Jenny Myers. No? French fries? French toast? Comment if you know what the heck I'm talking about. To the palettes. So the first one is, what is your newest palette? That was pretty easy. It is the Supreme Nudes from Artist Couture. I got this during this Sephora VIB sale. I'm still working on a review of this, although I have used it quite a lot. I do not typically go for like brownish neutral palettes, but as I said in my haul video, this one just caught my eye. I know this green, this olive green had something to do with it. I love olive greens very much, this mustard shade. There's something about these neutrals that just to me was, I don't know, it had a twist, or it was a little bit different or something. And even though I haven't done the review yet, I will tell you that I think these mattes are absolutely spectacular. I think they blend beautifully, and most of the people I've heard are really talking about the shimmers, which are very pretty, but I think the mattes are absolute standouts in this palette. So a little preview there of my hopefully upcoming review. So that is my newest palette. Next is my oldest palette. So first, let me preface by saying I have loved makeup and fragrance since I was in high school. I won some kind of writing statewide competition thing when I was a senior in high school, and I won $50, which was a huge deal, and I bought a fragrance with it, which gives you some insight into, like, anytime I've ever had extra money, basically my whole life, I've bought fragrance or I've bought makeup. So I've had a collection almost my entire adult life. So I have purchased and cleared out and purchased and cleared out and all kinds of stuff over the years. And just in the last couple of years, I finally gave up the ghost on some real classics like my original Naked palette and my Naked 2 and all kinds of palettes like that. So I don't have those anymore, but there is one that I kept. And interestingly, when I was working on the questions for this tag, I was like, did I keep that one or did I get rid of it? Because it has survived so many times that I've gone through my collection, but I just can't let it go. And I don't know that anyone's ever heard of this, but it's from Glines, and it is I believe it's Diva Nora is the palette group it was part of. It is still in the box. I bought it at the French Pavilion at Walt Disney World for $55, which at the time was by far the most expensive makeup I had ever purchased. Not the most expensive fragrance, but the most expensive makeup. So here is the palette. It still makes my heart beat a little. And these are the colors inside. And you'll notice it's never been touched. And this is from 2009. I should have told you that. So this is 11 years old that I've had. 11 years I've had this in my collection. It still has the little plastic thing that you can, I don't think I've ever even swatched this. Like, to me, this is so precious, I wouldn't even touch it, which is sad. But it's also like telling about how much I love makeup and how seriously I take it. Gorgeous, gorgeous palette. I think after 11 years, I'm thinking, probably not the best thing to put on my eyes. But I love these colors. I love these colors. This purple in particular is just straight up my alley. And it's a gorgeous palette. And it holds a special place in my heart also because in 2009, my family went to Disney World to celebrate the fact that I was cancer-free. And it was a pretty big deal. So I think in addition to the beautiful colors, it's got like a special place in my heart because of that also. So, but that is my oldest palette, 11 years old. I think that's pretty good. The next one is my most expensive. This one was a little tricky to determine because I tried to take into account things that I bought on sale and things that I did not. So my most expensive was this one, and it is Divine Rose from Pat McGrath. Please notice it's still in the packaging. Again, are we noticing a theme here? I treasure my makeup. I've never used this, and I'll tell you why I have not used this. I bought this when it was first released. Like, nobody could get their hands on it. I lucked out and I happened to get it, but it was gone. It was gone after that. No one could get it. So I didn't see any point in reviewing it because if no one could get it, it just seemed kind of unkind, really, to be like, hey, look at this cool thing I got that you can't get. Well, I know now it's more readily available. So I think I will do a review on this. I don't know. It seems like the time has passed. But anyway, and I consider it quite precious. So this is Divine Rose. And I know that on May 29th, Divine Rose 2 is coming out. I don't think I'll do it. I just don't think. I mean, this was, for me, this was quite a huge expense. And I considered it a one-time only deal. It's the only Pat McGrath palette I have. It's probably going to be the only Pat McGrath palette I have. I consider it quite precious and special. And I love the colors. I mean, that's why I waited so long to get a Pat McGrath palette. First, the expense, obviously, but also because the colors never exactly were quite right for me to spend that amount of money. So this one is, and now that I've gotten it out of its little precious box, I will start using it. If you want a review, I can do one. I don't know if that's interesting or not. You can tell me, feel free. So after that, the most affordable. This was interesting. Let me tell you, this tag video took me all day yesterday to figure out because I had a lot of things to figure out. This, I don't know if anyone even knows what this is. It's from Sweet and Shimmer. This was a brand that Ulta had over the holiday season, and it was this thing. They kind of had them near the checkout, and they had all kinds of things. Like there were little teeny compact mirrors, there was a nail brush, there were palettes and all kinds of stuff, and it was 5 things. Any of those things for $10. So this was, because I got 5, this was $2. There we go. So this is my $2 palette from Sweet and Shimmer, and they're surprisingly soft. It's really not a bad little palette, and actually the size of the pans is pretty good too. Like this is 7 grams, you know, so that's more than a gram a piece. There's the shades. I'm not going to swatch all this stuff, but I just thought this one was worthy of a swatch because for $2. You know, got everything you need. I do, for a full look out of that. So that's my $2 palette. And I like it. So that was least expensive. I guess they say affordable. I don't use that term. Because affordable is relative, I would probably say the least expensive palette I have. And then Everyday. As most people I've watched have said, this is kind of a curious one to determine, and everybody's definition of everyday is different. I would say this is my I'm going to call it my go-to. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't have a lot of time. What's going to give me the look that I know I can count on? It's easy. I love it, etc. This is the LA Girl Pro Mastery palette. I've already said, I said when I did my review, I consider this one of the best palettes of the entire year. And I said that very early in the year. I love this palette. I think it is wholly underrated. I really, really do. So these are the colors. Huge pans, huge mirror. What's the actual price? Is the actual price $20 or $15? And I saw it on sale again on Ulta for like $10. I'm telling you, this is the greatest palette ever. I love it. Oh, and I also did, when I did that review, I compared it to the, you know, the big Pillow Talk palette from Charlotte Tilbury. They're not exact dupes, but there was a lot of similarity between that palette and this palette. This one totally has my heart this year. I absolutely love this palette, and this is definitely what I would consider my everyday palette because those shades are right perfectly in my wheelhouse. Most colorful. This again is kind of one of those, I mean, everything here is subjective, right? But this one was particularly subjective, and well, what do you mean by colorful? Like most people I think, well, colorful means bright, but really colorful means color variety. I think that's how I'm determining it. And I decided to go with, from Revolution, the Emily Edit, the Once. I looked at a lot of my palettes, the ones certainly that have brighter colors than this, but this one just to me has the most interesting color selection. I think it's really thoughtful the way that these were chosen. Like, I love, there's like this almost orange color, and then we've got a berry, and then there's like this somewhere between a lavender and a pink shimmer, and there's this really beautiful periwinkle, and then there's kind of a shimmery pale green, but there's a darker green, and then there's this crazy like deep green here, and like a plum. I just think this Wants palette has really a terrific selection of colors. Now, they're not the brightest, most intense colors in my collection, but I do think it's probably close to the most variety I have in a single palette for just strictly the number of colors that are represented. And that gives me, anyway, a lot of versatility. So the Wants palette gets most colorful from me. I think smallest, yes, smallest is next. Not going to be a shock to anybody. I think I'm the same as most people. It is one of the e.l.f. bite-sized palettes, which are sweeping the nation, sweeping the world. Most people have this also as their least expensive palette, I know. So definitely my smallest. I think these are fantastic. I did a review on these not long after they came out. I think these are great little palettes. This one is only available at elfcosmetics.com. It's the I can never say this. It's Acai. I can speak, Acai. And I'm only swatching this because I don't think a lot of people have shown this one, in case it interests you. Obviously bluish, purplish tones, which I like. Kind of the blue-gray, almost a stormy look to them. And a pastel blue here. So that's my smallest palette, and I have said and continue to say good things about those e.l.f. bite-sized palettes. e.l.f. in general, I think, has done a terrific job this year with a lot of their releases, and a lot of them have been less expensive than a lot of other, certainly drugstore brands, and it's good quality. The only one I don't have of those is the jalapeno, which I regret not getting when I ordered this one, but maybe someday I'll get that one. So onto the largest palette, and this surprised me actually. I thought I had more large palettes, but my largest, like several people, is the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette. This one's weird in my collection in that I really waited a long time to get this. I don't even know why exactly. It's the only makeup from Morphe that I own, actually. And I'm sure you've seen this. You know, lots and lots of neutrals, some pops of blue. I have not used this a lot. I'm not insane about the formula, and I don't know, maybe it's too big. Maybe, I don't know. This palette does not call to me, but it is definitely my biggest with 35 shades. This is my largest, physically largest, and highest number of shadows also is the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette. Best memory. Well, we already talked about my oldest palette, which has a very nice memory, but this one, I wanted to choose a different one for this. So best memory would be this one. This is the Disney designer from ColourPop. This is the original It's a Princess Thing palette, which came out a couple of years ago. And this was my first ColourPop palette, and it's particularly sweet to me because my husband gave me this for Christmas that year. And just everything about it, the colors are very much my kind of colors, and I'm not usually into like the princess thing or whatever, but I liked the take they did on this, like the more high fashion angle, and something about him giving this to me, and he's always really supportive of my unnatural attachment to fragrance and makeup. Him getting this for me just really kind of, I just feel really special about it. Not because he gave me a thing, but because it was this particular thing, and it wasn't wildly expensive, but my eyes just lit up when I opened it that Christmas morning, and it really stays with me how much I love this, how perfect it is, and that it came from my dear husband. One that lives up to the hype, worth the hype. I'm kind of going back on this one, but I gotta go with ABH Modern Renaissance. This thing is more than a great palette. I mean, it's a fantastic palette. The color selection is beautiful. The formula is beautiful. But it really kind of, I would say, really started the revolution toward warmer makeup. And I think it really had an impact on beauty in general, on color stories, on colors, you know, for decor and all kinds of stuff. So Modern Renaissance to me A, worth the hype because it's a fantastic formula, fantastic color story, but more it's like it propelled something, it started something, which I think is like totally worth the hype. On the flip side, something not worth the hype to me is the Natasha Denona Love Palette. I did a review on this. On paper, I should love this. I love the packaging. The colors are very much me. I love purples, I love pinks, but this, I don't know. I think Natasha Denona and I just don't like the same kind of formula. That's really what it comes down to. I think I tend to be disappointed by the formula of some of the shadows, and that really makes me sad because so much about her aesthetic I appreciate, so much about the interesting choices of colors in her palettes I appreciate, but this one just didn't. A lot of people loved it. I'm glad that they loved it because it was an expensive palette, but for me it was just kind of didn't live up to it. Not for me. By the way, I feel like that not worth the hype category is kind of like the apologize for who you are category, because inevitably you're like choosing something that lots of people liked and you don't like, but I'm not apologizing because this is all opinion and subjective. Favorite from a favorite brand. I went back and forth on this one. It's between two, and I admit I've had difficulty choosing, but I think I had to choose a brand that is a little bit more of a favorite, edged it out. So I went with Viseart because I love Viseart. I think they do a terrific job with shadows. I've been buying Viseart since before they made Theory palettes or Pro palettes or I should say Petite Pro palettes. But I chose one of the newer ones, Viseart's Shoo Shoo palette. This little palette has given me a lot of joy. It's very bright, but it's also very neutral. It's teeny tiny. The color of the packaging makes me incredibly happy. Viseart just does it right. And I think a lot of people don't recognize that, like, for as small as this little palette is, as compact, as well put together, as, you know, little adorable, these are each a gram of product, which I consider a standard size for any eyeshadow palette. And I think Viseart's a great brand. I think they do terrific eyeshadows, but this little Shoo Shoo palette, love the name too. This is my favorite from Viseart. And that's hard to say because I have a lot of favorites from that brand. Gosh, are we on the last one? We're on the last one. My most used palette. This was hard. I have a number of eyeshadow palettes. You probably figured that out. I've been using makeup my entire adult life and loving it and taking it in and enjoying it. So, and as I said, I got rid of some of those real classics in my collection, like Naked and Naked 2, things that I definitely hit pan on. But the one that I have, that I think I have used the most, is the Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes. I absolutely love this palette. I bought it when it released in 2017, and I used it a lot then, and I'm gonna be quite honest and say I keep forgetting to reach for it, and doing this kind of going through my collection yesterday and oh my gosh, it still smells peachy and fabulous. It reminded me how much I love this palette. And I'm going to share one more story. I got this palette. I had been quite sick, not cancer related, something else, in 2017. So I was home a lot, and I finally felt better, and there was a Sunday that I went to Sephora. And I hadn't done that in a long time. And I bought this palette, and I was coming home, and I was just filled with joy. I had so much fun that day. I was just by myself looking at makeup, which is kind of like my total happy place. And I was coming home, and I was so joyful, and I noticed I had a voicemail. I knew it was from my parents, and I was like, oh, I think I'd called the night before because I was a little bummed or something. I'm like, oh, they're checking on me. They're so sweet. Well, it turns out it was my mother telling me my father had fallen down, broken a rib, and punctured his lung. It turned out he became very ill. He ended up in a nursing home. They said he'd never walk again. I visited constantly. My parents live about an hour and a half away. I was always there in the skilled nursing area. And I wore this. This just became my go-to. I wore it all the time. It makes me think of my dad. And there was a day when he walked with a walker, and no one believed it, and they all said it couldn't happen, and it was a great day, and I was wearing this palette. It didn't last. It was short-lived, but it was a hopeful, beautiful day. I've since lost my father, almost 2 years now, but this will always remind me of him. He was my great buddy in this world. Of course I miss him. Of course anyone misses someone they lose, but I have lots of fabulous memories of him, and this is just one of those memories. And it's not just a visual memory, it's also a sense memory because of the smell of it, because of the scent. So I have a very strong attachment to this, even though I do love the color story. So that's where I'll leave you. I'd like to thank actually Samantha, March, and Allie Glines for starting this tag. I think it's been really good at a really difficult time for people to be able to look at the things they have and just kind of look through them and think about them and tell other people about them and maybe share a bit. I don't know, a lot of people are more public than me. I'm a very private person, so this is wildly me telling a lot about myself doing this tag. But I'd like to thank them for coming up with this tag and for just kind of asking everyone to do it, and it's been really fun to watch other people do it. And as I always say, I hope that was helpful because that is my only purpose here. I hope you are at peace today, and I will talk to you soon.